Hey guys, I just wanted to show you a recipe really quick for a no-knead crusty bread. It's my go-to. This is what you're gonna need: salt, yeast, bread flour. I use honey instead of sugar, but you could use granulated sugar instead of honey if you wish. Olive oil. We're gonna do 2 cups of water, and I just have a bowl and a scale so I can weigh my stuff out. So let's do it. Okay guys, the first thing I normally do is I preheat my oven, bake. I just hit start and I just let it warm up for like 3 minutes and then I turn it off and I turn the oven light on. I'm gonna zero out my scale. I'm gonna make sure it's on grams. Okay, so we're on grams. I'm gonna put my bowl that I'm gonna use for my dry ingredients on. And then I'm gonna hit this button again to zero it out. I've been using a kitchen scale now because it just seems to be more accurate. Oh, 500 on the dot. Okay, and now we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put my salt in. I'm gonna do 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I use pink Himalayan salt. I just buy it in bulk. And just use a mason jar to store it because 1.5 teaspoons of salt. We're gonna do the rest in the liquid. Now I just want to make sure this is all stirred together really well. We're gonna get our water now. Okay. I'm gonna test the water really quick. You want it around 110. I don't know if you can see that. It's at 113. Stir it around. So it's at 114. Perfect. Because what I'm going to start doing is adding my other ingredients. Not my yeast yet, but my other ingredients, and it'll cool down to that 110 temperature by the time I'm ready to add my yeast. So I'm going to do a tablespoon of olive oil. Okay, and then we need 2 teaspoons of honey. Shout out to Bird's Eye Bee. We always get our honey from them, and they're local in town. See if I can get it to come out one-handed here. Now, if I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of honey, if you want to use granulated sugar, you can certainly do that. Just use 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar. So now I'll just stir this with it. I prefer to use honey. I don't know. I'm trying to do things the natural way here. And not so much processed stuff. Okay. Alright. Put that there for now. I'm going to just retest my water here. We're at about 113 still. I'm just going to let that cool for a second. Something else you'll need is some plastic wrap, or you can use a damp kitchen towel. I always have plastic wrap on hand, and so that's normally what I use. So it's probably fine. I'm going to go ahead and mix in my yeast now. I'm going to stir this really well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to mix this up really well, and then I'm going to let it sit. I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap and let it sit for 5 minutes. Okay guys, I've wrapped this up. This is our water and our yeast and everything. It's been sitting for 5 minutes. I'm just going to uncover it, and that's really exactly what you want. You want that bubbly, kind of like a bubbly, creamy film over it. just going to mix. Maybe not with this because it might be kind of challenging. But I'm just going to pour this in here. And take a wooden spoon. I'm just going to gently kind of mix it around. What's important is that we just don't have any dry spots of flour, like big old spots. So we're just gonna take a scoop of the mix. And scrape the bottom, because that's where it likes to hide. Okay, I think that's good. And I'm going to show you what the consistency looks like. So if you can see, it's a super wet dough. Like, that's wet. Like, you cannot touch that with your fingers at all. It would just stick to everything. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape down this spoon. I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap. I'm going to throw it in my oven with my oven light on. The oven is not on, it's only the light, and I'm gonna let it sit for an hour, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. It's risen. Holy moly. Okay, let's take this out, see if I don't drop it. So, that is way bigger than what it was when it did, so that's great. That means the yeast worked, and I'm gonna try to peel this off a little bit. Okay guys, so I just took this out of the oven. It's been in there an hour covered, and look how much it's risen. So it actually is all stuck to the top of the cellophane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of scrape down the sides, and I'm going to get a new piece of plastic wrap. I'm going to spray down the plastic wrap and then cover it and put it in the fridge. It's just going to sit in the fridge for 4 hours. Yeah, and then I'll come back. Hey guys, so I just wanted to show you, this is what the bread looks like out of the fridge once it's done proofing for 4 hours. You want to preheat your oven to 450 degrees, and at that point you want to put in a covered cast iron pan, something that can withstand high heat, 450, that has a lid. And I'll show you what I use in a minute. Most recipes say use some flour and for it to ball on a flat surface, but I'm lazy. So I'll show you, try to show you what I do. First you'll need parchment paper. And you're gonna roll it into a ball. Okay. And I got another bowl. I'm gonna put the parchment paper in my bowl. I just find that rolling it into a ball actually helps the parchment paper actually sit in the bowl, and I don't have to fight with it as much. So, okay, now this is my laziness. A spatula. I'm going to take some flour and I'm going to sprinkle it over the top, and I'm just going to start pulling the dough away from the bowl. See, just scraping it down. it all the way down on the sides. And just kind of pull it into a ball. And if you feel like you need some more flour, go ahead and put some on. But you see how it's like forming into a ball now? I'm gonna put a little bit more flour on, a little bit on my spatula, a little bit on there, all up. Okay. So, I mean, it's kind of ball-ish, as I guess you could say. So now, in this bowl here, you can't see. I'm just gonna dump it in. Plop, right in the middle. And see, just slid right out. Most of it came out with it. Okay. Now, I'm gonna get a set of, I'm gonna sprinkle some more flour just on top. Just makes it a little more rustic looking, right? And I'm gonna get kitchen scissors, and I'm just going, you probably can't see this, but I'm just gonna go like this and cut some slices. 1, 2, 3. That's what we look like right now. Okay. So my pan's ready. We're gonna go over to the stove. Okay guys, so now we're gonna take the hot pan out. Please be careful, do not burn yourself. I can't tell you how many times I've burned myself. So I'm gonna take the hot pan out. Oh, it's hot. Put it up here. See, cast iron enamel with a lid. I'm gonna take the lid off. I'm just gonna take this by the paper. So you can see. And I'm just gonna drop it in and put the lid on. And set the timer for 30 minutes. That's what we look at right now. About 15-20 more minutes.